Hey, John, how are you?
Good. 3 meetings already, or 4.
It's a good way to start the week off, though.
Yeah. I have another one after this, the retrospective. Then it will be afternoon time. So you're also aware we are migrating to our self-hosted Elastic cluster, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I'm not sure the time frame though, but yeah, John's mentioned that that's in the plans. Sounds like there wasn't a whole lot of value add from Elastic. So.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone.
I'll be covering for Jerry today. Let's wait for an additional minute before we start. Cool, it's a minute past the half hour. Andrew, you have the first item.
Thanks, Baron. So yeah, I just wanted to give an update on our issue where we're tracking some of the open items for supporting the first GitLab managed instance. So over the past week, we've settled on an operational model along with customer support. And we've also gotten uptime expectations from the account team, as well as defining the release cadence for new updates to the private instance. So all that's being tracked in the issue. If you'd like to follow along, please do so there. Next up, we're going to come up with a proposal for how we will administer the instance and what are the duties as far as infrastructure and the customer and customer support. So that's be working on that this week. Looks like Jason has the next one.
After much ado, sorry.
Jason, I wanted to ask Andrew a question or two.
Sure.
Where, like, I read the issue and I didn't see where the discussion was about 99.95. Like, I saw a comment about us being equal or better than GitHub, but I don't know how we came to the conclusion on 99.95.
Yeah, it was mostly a discussion with the account team when we met with them last week. They had asked the customer what their expectations were for uptime, and I think they had provided a number like 99.9. And so we felt, along with the account team, that we shouldn't treat this any different than GitLab.com, and we should try to maintain the same SLA there. I can capture some of that discussion on the issue, but a lot of it happened in the sync with the account team.
Okay, but that feels pretty arbitrary because someone felt that they need to have 99.95. That's a different story than 99.9. As we see on .com, it requires additional and quite a lot of work to actually get there. So it feels like we omitted part of the discussion here.
And it's aspirational, right? As the current plan, right, Andrew? It's not a SLA. It's
Right.
Well, aspirational in what terms? Is it contract language? Are we injecting an SLA anywhere in the contract with them?
Yeah, so we should handle it. The way that I'm looking at this is we should handle it the exact same way we handle .com contracts, where in our current contracts today, we have an aspirational SLA. Now, we don't say anything about giving credits in case we miss that SLA, but we are trying to aspire to 99.95.
yeah. So we should probably capture the issue, but the goal is to basically take what we do for .com and at least have the same level of the same policies for this. But yeah. So it's basically mirroring it, but yeah, we can discuss further.
Okay, I would like to have that clearly in written somewhere because it's not really clear. And then another thing, the define deployment release cadence. What's the latest version? What does that mean, right? Like, does that mean we upgrade them immediately after the 22nd to the latest .0 version? What does it mean to actually upgrade them on the security patch, like patch releases? It says complete, but there is a lot of things that are not defined there.
Yeah, we were just defining, we were trying to get a sense of what the customer expects as far as having the instance upgraded on a regular basis. They are fine with monthly updates. Now, as far as security releases go, I think that probably needs more discussion. But as long as they can have the instance updated monthly, they would be happy.
Maybe I'll interject here that I don't know if we want to have this working group kind of so much taken over with a single topic. Potentially, we should have a separate conversation to kind of make sure that we're addressing all the right questions and everything, and getting into this. So and also making sure that we're defining a service that can be sold to 20 different customers, not just the first one and everything. I think that's probably what some of the concern is. Does it make sense to take this to another, both in the issue and then also potentially have another time for us all to sync on it?
I'd almost suggest that we have another working group. Like, this is a pretty complex topic, especially when we want to make this repeatable and not a ad hoc thing for this first prospect.
I generally agree with you, Steve, here. It's just that, like, if you read the issue and read the tables, there are some statements in there that just, like, it's really hard to connect with them. And when you read something complete and then you can find things like it might end up being the next customer that comes in, we just use the same language and say we copy whatever we do for GitLab.com and customer one, which, like, we have to understand the decisions that are being made and why they're being made. So it's probably not this meeting, but at the same time, I'm a bit concerned with the lack of information.
Yeah, no, certainly. I get the concern and everything. I'm just saying that there's probably a whole 30 minutes or 45 minutes of discussion to have on this one topic. So maybe we should do that. Andrew, maybe you and I could work together to set that up.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, we've done the work to get the customer expectation here. I think the piece that we're missing is what we're comfortable with on the infrastructure side. So that's where I need Brent and Maren to jump in and say, what are we comfortable with managing this first customer? Is 99.95 too high? Those are the details I'd like to get into.
Cool. Jason, you're up next.
Right, so after much ado and testing and revision, we do officially have the ability to deploy independently configure web service fleets merged into master at this time. We can now individually configure all the key items about the deployments, allowing for focused scaling and separation of concerns.
Just want to thank Jason for all the work you did there. That merge request ended up being a beast. So thanks for doing it.
And thanks for that. It'll actually be much more maintainable with stuff going future now that we have a good solid precedent going forward.
Thanks. Andrew, you're up next.
Yeah, this is just an FYI that we've got an opportunity canvas review set up with Scott and Anoop later this month to talk about GitLab Private, the overall opportunity, not just this one customer, but how we want to scale it out in the future, what problems we're solving, what is the total opportunity size. So more of like a product view on GitLab Private and how we're planning to offer it to customers. So that's on the calendar for later this month.
If no questions or comments, I'll go to the next item. Update on the OpenShift operator work. We are officially splitting the two pieces apart to allow for separation of concerns. One will be for the application suite itself and another for the runner. Specifically, this allows the runner to accelerate towards its own MVP and GA, which dramatically affects the customer once and getting us into that market quickly. And second, it allows us to actually independently depend on the runner operator itself as a part of OpenShift and Red Hat's operator lifecycle manager. So we can pull it in basically as a dependent as we do with the chart itself. Okay, in terms of updates on the OpenShift application operator itself, we'll soon be merging the code to consume the Helm chart itself within the application's code base and replace the existing model generators themselves. Once we have that actually in place and we get the first example in line, we'll be able to immediately parallelize all of the other components and significantly increase the turnaround on this one. Questions?
No, just another big shout out to Jason for sort of putting this all together and helping us. We've got a lot of work that's behind this that we should be in position to execute against.
Jason, I have a question for you related to the operator and how you're approaching this thing. I only read like the summaries, like I didn't follow everything. Mm-hmm. What kind of operational stress are you putting on while you're developing? Like, are you using maybe any of the reference architecture like systems to see how the operator acts under those workloads, or is this just initial work that you're doing to test, to actually have the operator work?
This is the work that we're doing to actually do the initial deployment. We're not to the point in development to start doing load testing and day two operations. We do have separate open issues to do CI and scripted generation of OpenShift clusters for development and integration with the CI and other items, but they're not a part of this particular work. The intent of the referenced work here is specifically around not actually hard coding all of the Kubernetes objects in Go data structures, and instead reusing the work from the Helm chart so that we can, as we get people comfortable with what the operator is and how to work with it, we can directly take the development workflow from the rest of the team that's integrated in the charts and then immediately be able to pull that directly into the operator within a point revision. Okay. The next question, the next item I have here is that we're continuing work on the unstructured logging across cloud native. Work is continuing on this one. We merged a few of the changes in and it actually had to revert one or two due to the impact that that had on production's consumption of the logs. So we're working with delivery and all our production for that matter to groom this work further. We initially were going to just go ahead and replace all of the instances of tail, and we're now looking at which things we should probably not bother with doing with and just take whatever we can get out of the native structured logging formats. Aaron, I know you bumped into this one, so in case you have any comment, I'll give you a pause.
Go for it.
Okay. In terms of a production blocker issue, we have the zero downtime deployment for Nginx Ingress. It's being worked on from multiple angles. Part of that is already addressed in the short term. We have two things from John Jarvis from delivery. First is we found a methodology to put in place a pre-stop hook that prevents early termination, or I should say abrupt termination of the Nginx process itself. And second, we've added termination grace period seconds. The combination of those two things gives us the ability to cleanly roll the controller as we work. Going forward, we are in the process of doing an upgrade to Nginx itself. We are looking to jump forward to the last released Helm 2 variant of that chart from the upstream. And if necessary, pull things from slightly later revisions and just make the necessary backports to Helm v2. Point of context, Helm 2 versus Helm 3. Helm 2 is officially in maintenance mode as of the middle of November. We have not rolled our charts to be Helm 3 only as of this time due to the nature of long tail in software and infrastructure. We will be planning to make that move to Helm 3 so we wouldn't have to worry about this particular upgrade path problem. However, we have to wait a little while to make sure that our customers are on recent enough versions that they're not going to hit the problem of having one chart that we depend on being Helm 3 and the rest of our chart being Helm 2. Production's currently on Helm 2.16, working to move to Helm 3. And I know there's a lot of customers out there that are still running Helm 2.14 and 2.16 through Rancher. So we have to be careful about that.
And is the migration story still as hard as it was a couple of months ago? A couple of months ago, it was almost like a breaking change. Like you had to redo your setup. Is that still the case for our charts?
I will have to revisit. I know that it's not as hard of a breaking change because we have a larger refinement. But I have not actually tried the Helm 2 to 3 plugin in a little bit myself. The biggest item that I remember, we narrowed it down to there were a couple of components that did not like to upgrade because Helm and Tiller disagreed on which label they were using, which resulted in immutable labels. The way around that was to actually individually delete those particular resources that didn't affect state, but it did cause a blip in downtime because services were disappearing briefly. I believe we're still going to be seeing that same problem just because of the items that are being touched.
Cool, thanks. Grant, you're on next.
Oh, yep. So just a quick follow-up from last week with discussion of the environmental toolkit. We're aiming to make it public by the end of next week. We have some work to do just to remove some baked-in config data and secrets, and we have to kind of also figure out a way to make that work with more flexible config. So we're on the way, it's just slotting it in and actually getting it done. So yeah, end of next week, the project should be public with a warning just to say it's we've still got a few actual little things to do, but feel free to start perusing and start preparing.
Cool. Thanks, Grant. It's exciting. I'll go ahead and slow questions on to discussion. Just one quick heads up that we expect GitHub to probably announce their version of private SaaS this week during GitHub Universe. It starts tomorrow. The keynote is around this time, I think tomorrow actually. The roadmap issue for their version is there. It used to be called GitHub Private. Now they're named to AE. I've tried to find out what AE stands for. I have been unsuccessful in doing so. Azure Enterprise, don't know. Andrew T has opened an issue to collaborate with marketing, just so we can have an answer ready if customers ask, prospects, sales, you name it. So getting that rolling there. And just noting that there are separate roadmap items for packages, actions, and other features of GitHub. So it may or may not be fully featured upon release. And you can also see some docs starting to arrive, as well as part of those documentation, you can see their pricing policy. So it will be $39 or a $18 premium over their GitHub Enterprise feature per month. It's also interestingly billed per day. So if you have a user who was added mid-month, it's prorated for that month based on the daily price. So it gives some indication of their increased cost and or margin on this product versus enterprise. We're also seeing it come up in some customer conversations recently as well. I think 2 from Europe.
Hey Josh, thanks for this. Do you think it's a direct competitor to like our private single tenant effort? What are your thoughts on how it would affect our charter here?
Yeah, I think it is basically GitHub Private. I don't know if it'll be supported on multiple cloud providers or how you get started. Right now, if you look at some of the documentation, it's all based on GitHub support. So you have to call GitHub support, send them some information like your SMTP server and things like that, and they will get you going. But it is very much a private managed service for sure. But I don't know if it is sort of a GitHub specific thing or if it is an Azure sort of push button to deploy type thing, right? Like you would do with like a Azure database service, where you just hit the button and go. That I do not know. We might find out tomorrow. I try to find out, but it is not the docs that are public. You cannot find out that information from. It has been in beta for some time, as you can probably tell from the documentation and things like that. So it's possible that the current iteration was not hosted through Azure and the new version will be, but we'll find out more, I imagine, tomorrow. But yeah, I think it's a direct competitor to this.
Did you maybe stumble upon information about whether this is an HA offering or is this like a single instance setup? Because I couldn't find that.
I could not either.
Because that will change the dynamic. Like if it's just single instance, then it's not a competitor to GitHub Private. It's a competitor to our open source project and single node installations, right? Cool.
Yeah, I don't know. There is a 500 seat minimum based on the pricing policy. You can see there linked in item D. So it's probably not too small on the small end. At least that, but that also may have been the bar for their limited release. I don't know. It might be getting relaxed as it goes GA here.
Say 500 seats makes a lot of sense for even our own small instances. That's effectively the single omnibus size, or 2 to 3 nodes of reasonably sized Kubernetes. So it's in that low end minimum market. They're just making sure that they're covering costs for whatever their reasonable sized Azure VMs are.
I mean, ops GitLab.net has 500 users, obviously not all active at the same time, but the point is it covers a completely different space from the start, at least. Okay. Cool.
There's no mentioned maximum user counts. So that's the minimum. I don't know how high it would scale.
Any other discussion points? Thanks, Josh. All right, I guess we can close this meeting then. Thanks everyone, and have a good week.